What had so much hype about it, but was actually terrible? The Power Glove. If you weren't there at the time, you can't imagine how awesome NES kids thought that this thing was going to be. Then you finally played something with one, and tried convince yourself that it was indeed awesome before slowly, oh so slowly, accepting that it was lame as hell. Then having to memorize the codes you needed to type in on the glove, otherwise it wouldn't work. So much to realize it didn't work regardless, so you just yank it off and use the pad on the glove because, ironically, it was better than your existing controller which had the sticky fire button. Lucky I never paid for the damn thing. Picked it up at a garage sale for $15 a year after it came out. I could see why it was found at a garage sale. I ended up taking it apart to see why it sucked but broke it and threw it out. Wish I'd have kept it. They go for decent cash on eBay these days. Olestra was a fat substitute that had no calories. Chips would have no fat content and less calories. It was a craze until they realized it gave everyone the shits. Like for some people a few handful were enough for explosive zero warning uncontainable shits. Some years back, there was some asshole that hyped up a huge live event of him being eaten by a snake in a digestion-proof suit. I thought it was incredibly stupid, but kept hearing about from coworkers. Day after the event, I hear he bitched out as it was working on swallowing him. So they had to kill the snake to save his dumbass. Edit, it was eaten alive. A Discovery Channel special. The guy was Paul Rosalie, and supposedly the snake did not get killed. He had to make the snake defend itself to even attack him, as it wasn't interested in him when he acted like prey. I remember that shit. So far this is the only one of these hype things I actually paid attention to. Google+. I met my husband on Google+, which is pretty embarrassing to explain to people. 2020, remember that meme showing how all the holidays were on weekends? Anthem. The flight mechanics and Iron Man-ish badass feeling of huge explosions and gameplay is so damn cool to have just let it rot in a gutter. What a waste. Such potential. I know someone who is a voice actor who voiced a character in Anthem. They pretty much said that it was great to be in the booth recording the lines. The director was very encouraging and was saying how great the performance was and how they're going to get some great animation for the character. Once the game was out, my friend looked up their character on YouTube to find their performance was paired with some generic looped animation that didn't really match the character at all. They were quite disappointed. I assume there were some budget cuts mid-production. Not only were there budget cuts, there were major changes going on throughout the entire development process, including the name and the entire story of the game. It was originally supposed to be called Beyond, but shortly before they announced it there were some copyright issues, I think? Most of the people working on the game still had no idea why it was even being called Anthem all of a sudden, and they were just told to work with it. It also wasn't originally meant to be a looter shooter either, which is pretty clearly evident when you look at just how ridiculously bad the entire loot system was. They were definitely rushed into all kinds of stuff that just kept changing too fast for them to deal with. Geraldo Rivera opening Al Capone's safe. Kibi. I saw ads and promotions for it constantly for months leading up to its release, and they had some pretty famous celebrities in the shows. Then it disappeared after like a month of its release. The company I worked for at the time offered a choice: free Netflix or free Kibi. After looking at thousands of accounts, I saw one that had chosen Kibi over Netflix. 3D TV. I had a 3D TV. I think I used that feature once. I got that 3D PlayStation TV that launched at like $500 for the low cost of $12. I used the 3D a handful of times, and will admit the full screen split screen thing for the like 3 games that supported it was pretty damn impressive. I hardly used the 3D. Damn good TV though. Colors pop beautifully. I came here to say this. I thought it was really cool that you could be playing the same game together on the same screen with no dirty horse screen lookers, damn it. But that was about it. Kony 2012. Proof that it does take a little more than awareness to solve the world's problems. The only thing I remember about Kony 2012 was that the guy who started the movement had a mental breakdown and stripped down naked in public. Mini CDs. On a similar note, does anyone remember hit clips? All the TV stations had commercials aggressively promoting hit clips in the Y2K era, and a few people at school had them. They were marketed as portable music. This was pre-iPod, so that was a pretty big deal, but only played like 20 seconds of audio. They didn't even carry a full song. Total letdown. Edit. I looked it up and apparently it was 60 seconds, not 20. Still not a full song, so still bullshit. That one pizza party specifically in our elementary school. Like 8 boxes of pizza and they limit us to 2 slices each. But each slice was actually one regular slice cut in half. And no seconds. Even though there's 4 untouched boxes. Yeah, fuck that. I always laugh at work pizza parties, because everyone stands there with their polite 2 slices. We all know at home we polish off half a pie with no regrets. Google Glass got a lot of hype, but then it was gone. Back when Google Glass had beta testers, I met a guy at a conference that was a tester. It seemed kind of cool at first, but I found myself being weirded out with every conversation we had. Imagine knowing someone who is always holding their phone up as if they're constantly recording everything you do. Are you gonna feel comfortable talking to that person, or are you gonna be wondering if and why they're recording everything and what they're gonna do with those videos? That's the feeling that Google Glass gave me from the other end, and I feel like Google really didn't understand how weird it was to be on the outside looking in. I feel like hoverboards were seriously misnamed. I expected Back to the Future, not Back to the Hospital with bone fractures. The hoverboards they sold were made so poorly that they were destined to fail. Everything was cheap plastic and the electronics were crudely soldered and covered in hot glue to hold it all together. I made a decent bit of money repairing them, but stopped after folks kept complaining after they broke them again, expecting me to cover it. I think the Aoya was partially overhyped by the company itself, but partially by the public who got very excited over ideas that were never promised. Flown. It was that early 2000s toy that looked really fun on TV, but then we got it and it fell apart almost instantly. New Year's Eve. Every year. Try sloppy steaks, bro. Cocaine helps too. Floyd Mayweather vs. Logan Paul. Glad I didn't pay for it. I didn't even know this had hype. I thought it was an April Fool's joke and then just a weird publicity stunt. SpongeBob Sweet Victory music but got switched to Travis Scott's Sicko Mode in the Super Bowl. That one hockey rink's got you covered. Ted. Back in the early 2000s, billboards went up all over Denver saying Ted is coming, are you ready for Ted? And a whole bunch of other cryptic Ted stuff. Nobody knew who or what Ted was. It escalated to the point everyone was talking about Ted. Turns out Ted was an airline. It lasted like a month and failed. Segways. Not necessarily terrible, but incredible. Over the top hype. Interestingly, those Segways paved the way for a host of other personal electric vehicles, especially self-balancing ones. You could say it was our segue into better technology. I'm sorry. Fire Festival. Shout out to the one time there was a dude who went on record to say he was the only dude who enjoyed Fire Festival, because he won the ability to go in a giveaway, and seeing a bunch of rich snobs in misery was incredibly funny to him. Fire Festival. 2020. Rating Area 51. The Naruto runner made it all just stupid funny. The fact that somewhere, at some point in time, an Air Force colonel had to hold a security briefing that centered around Naruto running is goddamn hilarious. Those Google Glasses, whatever happened to them? Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Facebook have all gotten patents on them in the last 2 years. It's coming. Fire Festival. We all saw the documentary and what Andy was willing to do to get water released. I'm more disturbed that his manager suggested that he did it. He didn't offer it. He was asked to offer Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Awful, and I don't actually believe it's part of HP. Basically everything after the last movie has been them milking the franchise and ruining it. New game looks good though. Anthem video game. F in the chat for my buddy who dropped $90 on a shiny disc. Hands across America. My mom was a teacher in LA when this happened. She said the school she worked at organized buses to Skid Row in downtown LA. I guess to show solidarity with the homeless? She said after the long chain of hand holding and it was over, a man experiencing homelessness asked, am I supposed to feel different now? I was like 8 when this happened. In the 80s you could do things like bus elementary children to Skid Row for the day.